We're joined by Mike Reiss of ESPN. And Mike, a big week. A lot of good feelings around this Patriots football team. Just your thoughts on Mike Vrabel as he starts to, dive in and make changes and get ready for the 2025 season.
So my understanding, Dan, is that Mike Vrabel's been meeting with members of the Patriots coaching staff and deciding whether he wants to retain them. So some of those are tough meetings where he says he knows he's moving on. Others, he's interviewing them to see if there's a fit. So an example of that. There's a chance that special teams coordinator Jeremy Springer and top assistant Tom Quinn could stay. I mean, special teams did a pretty good job this past year. There's some connections there. Tom Quinn had coached under Mike Vrabel in Tennessee, and I think Springer makes his case in this type of situation, and maybe you start there and say they could have some continuity in that area.
I think Patriots fans, obviously, with what we saw on offense, with the offensive line and Drake May, I think let's start there and focus in on them. Offensive coordinator, what do you think Mike Vrabel wants in an offensive coordinator?
A lot of intrigue, Dan, across the league as to what Mike Vrabel is going to do here, because it's a little different than what he's doing defensively, where he has a lot of options that he's coached with in the past. There are options offensively that he's coached with in the past, but are they the right options? And so what he's looking for, a versatile offense, wants to run different type of blocking schemes, wants to be able to play fast, wants to be able to do different things, but he'll say we're going to tailor it around what the players can do. So a coach that is flexible enough and not necessarily saying this is what we do and we're going to fit it, into what we do. No, we're going to look at what the players do well and build our system around that.
I think the one name that obviously comes up right away is Josh McDaniels, part of all 6 Super Bowl titles. We know what he can do as an offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach. Just your thoughts. We saw him with Mac Jones. What your thoughts are about him possibly coming here?
I mean, I think he's a wizard, Dan. Like, we saw him not just with Mac Jones, we saw him with Cam Newton. Like, I thought he got a lot out of Cam. And so I think he would be a solid choice if Mike Vrabel goes in that direction. I just don't know if Mike Vrabel is going to go in that direction. They've never coached on the same staff before. And so now obviously Mike was a player when Josh was on the staff. So I think he's going to talk to Josh. He said that on EEI, but I think he's going to talk to a lot of different people.
Be curious to see what he thinks, like what he wants to hear, what he wants from that, because like you said, they've been together on teams just when he was a player. Like, what does he want to hear, Mike?
I know. Well, it's so interesting because we could go through a list of names of coaches that he's been with in Tennessee that, I think what he wants to hear is toughness, fix the offensive line. Like, Josh does a good job on that type of stuff. Just going back to McDaniels, like, you have a weakness on the offensive line, well, you help your tackles, right? And so I think that's why his name comes up first, because we've seen it. He's in the area. It would fit. I think he would love it.
Wouldn't go anywhere. Right, because he's tried the 2 coaching stints.
And I wanted to ask you this, because that seems to be a big topic. Like, people are nervous if you go for a hotshot offensive coordinator that he might leave in a year, and then Drake May's on his 3rd coordinator in 3 years. How much of a factor should that be? To me, it's not a huge factor. How about for you?
Part of me says you want the best coach.
Right. Get the best coach.
Right. And if he leaves, he leaves. But you want the best coach year one in a win now league. You want the best coach.
That's the way I feel. And like Cliff Kingsbury as an example. You think Washington regrets Cliff Kingsbury? Even if he leaves this year, look at what they're doing. So I'm with you on that one, Dan, but I think it's a fascinating conversation.
So there's names like Thomas Brown, passing game coordinator of the Bears. Marcus Brady requesting permission to speak with him, Chargers passing game coordinator. There's 2 guys. There's a whole list of people that you could put down. Tim Kelly was with Mike in Houston under Billy O. Offensive coordinator, 22-23. Nick Caley was here. Pat O'Hara, he's worked with in the past. How about some of those? Like, what again? How do you think it will look? Do you think he'll have an offensive coordinator, a separate QB coach, and a pass game coordinator?
He could do that. And so part of the reason you might do that is if you need to get a guy an elevated title to get him here. So I think, Dan, I think there's going to be even more names than that, like Mike LaFleur, the Rams offensive coordinator. He had hired Matt LaFleur, Mike's brother, in his first year in Tennessee. He loved Ryan Day, the Ohio State head coach, who's got the New England ties from New Hampshire, right? Chip Kelly's Ryan Day's offensive coordinator at Ohio State. What about something like, so that type of offense? So I think those are names to put out there. Dave Ragone, quarterbacks coach with the Rams. I think we can just throw some names out there, and I think Mike's going to do that too and see what sticks.
All right, Drake May should have been at the press conference. I'm just kidding.
I'm like, damn, where are you going with that?
Felger and Maz for that. What do you think Drake May's thinking? And what do you think the conversations are between Vrabel and Drake May?
So, well, first off, I think Drake's pretty excited. You know, he had that final kneel down where he got engaged, right? Did you like that? Yeah, you liked it. I came with the Dan Roche humor.
That's like the first time I've ever enjoyed your humor.
Thank you. I know. It's always the first week. 2025, we're turning over a new leaf.
That's pretty good.
I'm really happy that you like that. I was like, I'm going to take a risk right now.
Let's go.
Okay. I think positive, Dan.
Yeah.
I think
really?
Mike wants to galvanize the team, the building, like he said, everything. And I think when he gets with Drake, what he's talked about Drake, young, dynamic quarterback, thinks he's got a lot to work with there. I mean, to me, if you're Drake, that's music to my ears. Let's get to work.
Big offensive line, you know, skilled wide receiver. That's what we were going to see, and now the draft is going to be up next. And again, it sounds like, you know, it's going to be Mike Vrabel with the final say, right?
I feel that way, and I love what you said about offensive line. You know, Mike Vrabel said, look at the teams that are playing the best. They usually have the best offensive line. I have a strong, I'm going to put my chips in the middle of the table, Dan, and say that the Patriots will not be 32nd in the league in pass block win rate, like they've been the last 2 years under Mike Vrabel.
I've spent all the time on offense, Mike, because I think it's necessary, right?
Well, my only hesitation is I actually think the defense needs a lot of help too, Dan.
But I think they're going to get back to that.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the things that the immediate change we're going to see with Mike Vrabel is they're going to get back to technique, fundamentals, why you're doing this. You know, Keon White, if you do this, you'll succeed.
Yes.
Right? That kind of individual and then coming together as a team.
And I'm glad you mentioned that because I think defensive coordinator-wise, the one name that I would just say that everyone should lock in on, from what I understand, Lions defensive line coach Terrell Williams. He was with Mike Vrabel in Tennessee as his defensive line coach. Mike Vrabel made him his assistant head coach his final year. Rising coach, connects with players, 50 years old. I think he could be a good hire.
And it just feels football. It's nice to talk football,
I love talk. I love your enthusiasm and that you like my humor. I mean, this is like the best night of the night.
Mike Reiss with the final kneel down of Drake May season. I love it. That was really well done. All right, I'm going to remember that for a long time.
There you go.
Thank you, Mike. Always good to see you.
Great being with you.
All right, there you have it.